It's showtime.
It's the pre-party with J. Cal.
We are professional wrestling.
I'm building an alliance.
You are tuned into
the absolute top of the mountain, the ultimate professional wrestling.
Alliance-wrestling.com.
What is up, guys? It is Tuesday. It is NWA Tuesday. And, guys, I am jacked up. I'm jacked up. Number one, because I had a lot of energy drinks today. Number two, I think my microphone is actually working. You'll let me know here in a second if it's not. This is a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance. Like I said, my name is J. Cal, and fellas, we are 11 days away. We are 11 days away from the 10 pounds of gold being defended once again. Guys, it's been since January since our World's Heavyweight Champion, the real World's Champion, Nick Aldis, has been able to defend his title in front of a viewing audience. And we're 11 days away. Now, I have some good news about our World's Heavyweight Champion and this World Championship match that's set to feature Jeff Cobb and a mystery opponent challenging for the World's Heavyweight Championship. But before we get to that, I want to talk about the NWA and its history in the Southwest. specifically Texas, specifically North Richland Hills. Now, when you say that name, you think, well, that's just a suburb of Fort Worth, the Dallas Metroplex area. Ain't no big deal, right? You're right. I mean, for all intents and purposes, the NWA Southwest area isn't such a big deal, except for the history that it holds. The NWA Southwest promotion ran roughly around from 1997 to 2011, and during that time saw more than a few World Heavyweight Championship bouts in that area. But specific to the North Richland Hills, which was kind of like the home front for the NWA Southwest, they had tons of shows in that area. A lot of those matches ended up on television in that area. Ken Taylor, who I've talked a lot about recently, if you've been keeping up with the YouTube channel, if you watched the Lance Cade interview, which I highly recommend. It is from the vault. We did kind of remaster it, but it talks about the Texas and specifically NWA Southwest, because that's where Lance Cade was going to put his energy into in the United States. But the NWA Southwest area brought in a lot of big names in that time. Now, you got to remember, if we look at the calendar, we look at the if we look at historically that time frame, so Jim Crockett Promotions essentially is done with the NWA by 1993. In 1994, we have promotions like Extreme Championship Wrestling, who are out to kind of represent the National Wrestling Alliance. The problem with that, of course, is Shane Douglas tosses down the belt. In 94, they have another tournament to crown a champion with Chris Candido winning the belt around 1995. And I should have written this stuff down because I'm not entirely sure about the numbers that I'm throwing out here. But Dan the Beast Severn ends up winning that title, and Severn takes the title all across the globe, brings the title to the WWE. And although he'd never had any title defenses while wrestling in the WWE, he certainly showcased that championship, that 10 pounds of gold. But where he did take that title, other promotions were around in that area. So like in 1994, Jim Crockett Jr. was promoting in NWA Dallas, and then shortly after that, around 97, is when we got NWA Southwest. So now that we have NWA Southwest established, as early as 97, they were bringing in Dan the Beast Severn to defend that World's Heavyweight Championship. In fact, there were about sorry guys, trying to be slick here, and it turns out I'm not as slick as I thought I was. Around 1997, Dan Severn was defending that title, like I said, all across the globe, and he did actually come and defended that title in North Richland Hills, Texas. And we're talking about I want to say, I'm not exactly sure what month it was, but I know in 97 he defended the title against Rod Price. Rod Price was fairly known in the area, but obviously never made a real big name globally after that. So Severn was the first guy in recent history to defend the title in Richland Hills, Texas. Again, just a small suburb of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. After Dan the Beast Severn took that title around the world, then we get guys like Noya Ogawa, who Noya Ogawa was actually the man that beat Dan the Beast Severn for that title. And Ogawa actually won that title in Japan and defeated Severn for that belt. Ogawa then would come to the United States. He would wrestle across the United States defending the title. In fact, his first match was again back in Richland Hills, Texas, North Richland Hills, Texas, against the man he defeated, Dan Severn, who who he retained the title via a double. Well, I guess it was a timeout. It went to a time limit draw. They even gave the crowd another 5 more minutes, and it still resulted in the same thing. Severn couldn't beat Ogawa for the belt. Do you guys have any guesses on who the other 2 champions were to defend the title in North Richland Hills, Texas? Leave a comment below if you know. There were 2 more. Anyways, so again, this history of the NWA in the Southwest area is really rich, especially the North Richland Hills area. So again, I want to continue to hype up this show that we're getting on August the 29th as part of the Independent Wrestling Weekend. I believe it was called the Independent Wrestling Expo. And this show is going to be stacked, jacked, and just loaded with wrestling talent from across the country. You know, I would say across the globe, but our borders are closed, so no, it's just across the country. But, you know, off the top of my head, I know that EC3 from Impact will be there. I know Brian Cage from AEW will be there. We know that, of course, Nick Aldis' opponent, one of his opponents that night will be Jeff Cobb. He will be there. And, you know, Jeff Cobb represents Ring of Honor, represents New Japan USA. And there's going to be so much more talent from MLW. And I did ask about how we could see this show for those of us who don't live in Texas, who aren't going to be traveling to Texas. And I was told by officials from the Independent Wrestling Expo that they hope to have this show on Fight. Now, that the questionable part about that is with all of these contracts, you know, I don't know how they're going to be able to swing that, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes. And again, I'm really excited to see Dan the Beast Severn. Did I really say that? I'm really excited to see Nick Aldis, the national treasure, get back in the saddle once again. To answer the question, because I see some of you guys are trying to throw the answers out there, the other 2 guys were Mike Rapata. Yes, Mike Rapata, the Colorado Kid, and Steve Corino, the King of Old School. In fact, Mike Rapata defended the title against Hot Stuff Hernandez. He ended up being disqualified in that bout. And then, of course, Steve Corino wrestled Kevin Northcutt, defended his belt against Kevin Northcutt. Also, again, he was disqualified. So, again, when the champion heads to North Richland Hills, Texas, he's in good company of former NWA World Champions who've defended in the area. And historically, those champions have been very successful in retaining their titles. In fact, no NWA World Heavyweight Championship has changed hands while being defended in North Richland Hills, Texas. And I gotta believe that it's not gonna happen again. Well, Wrestling with the MMA says that Aldis for the L on the 29th, and I don't know that I agree with you, sir. But he will be facing stiff competition in Jeff Cobb. We don't know who his mystery opponent is. What we understand is that there will be a battle royal on Friday, August 28th, that will feature talents from MLW, talents from AEW, talents from really all over the world of professional wrestling. And there's an opportunity here for our world's heavyweight champion. I mean, he will be in peril. He will definitely be I mean, his back is up against the wall. He's going to be facing against, again, a world-class athlete, an Olympic athlete in Jeff Cobb. And then whoever this mystery opponent is, it's dangerous. These are dangerous times for our world's heavyweight champion. But with that being said, his introduction back into the world of professional wrestling, the reintroduction, I think is much, much needed. If you guys have seen interviews with the champ, I mean, This Is the NWA spoke to him last week. Of course, you guys, if you've seen some of his other podcasts, some of the photos that he's posted online, he's ready to go. He looks like in great shape. He looks like he's gained some mass. I mean, I'm ready to see what's next for Nick Aldis, and well, we'll just have to see what happens. Now, with that being said, a lot of talk is on the Thunder Studios and on what's coming with Prime Time Live. And we do know, and there's a photo of David Marquez at the Thunder Studios in Long Beach, California. They are getting into preparation for this Primetime Live. Now, what we know about Primetime Live isn't a whole lot, guys. Isn't a whole lot. Dave Marquez has repeatedly said that this is an open door policy, that they will be inviting talents from all across the country. Of course, the emphasis of the show is going to be specifically the NWA and the United Wrestling Network. They're going to showcase championship wrestling from Hollywood's Watts, you know, the United Wrestling Network TV champion Dan Joseph, I'm assuming the United Wrestling Network tag team champions in the Static, which is Downtown Andy Brown and Adrian Quest, Young Fuego. But we could expect that the NWA is going to be represented by its champions. Of course, the world's heavyweight champion, the national treasure, Nick Aldis. On the flyer for this event, for the Primetime Live, I mean, we have seen, on that flyer, we see Allison Kay, the former women's champion. We've seen the national champion, Aaron Stevens. And I also believe Eli Drake is slated to be a part of the show. No specific word on a roster who's going to be presented on the show. During his State of the Union address, not really, it's just his Facebook videos that David Marquez goes to quite routinely. David Marquez was making a plea for local talent if they're interested to be a part of this, specifically tag teams, that they're looking to acquire more talent. And he said that he was specifically, they're looking for tag teams, they're looking for guys who fit the bill. It's not limited to just people on the West Coast, but because of the nature of the beast, the limited amount of resources, they do believe that it's mostly going to be showcasing talent from the West Coast. Of course, that isn't to say that talent from the East Coast or the Midwest or the Southwest or wherever won't be a part of the show. It just means that those guys are really going to want to hustle for that. They're really going to have to be hungry to get these opportunities. A few other things that Dave Marquez said on that address was that Nick Aldis was 100% confirmed for the show. He said that Tim Storm was mentioned as somebody who is likely going to be on the show. And you have to believe our TV champion Zicky Dice, as well as our women's champion Thunder Rosa will also be on the show. So it's starting to come together again. September 15th is just around the corner. I mean, that's less than a month away. They've got the venue. They're working on talent. I don't know if I should even say this, but I know that they've had to shift a lot of the plans that they had going into the show because of people being signed from Impact Wrestling to AEW, and it's changed things up. The interesting thing I want to point out, and nobody has indicated this to me, but back in May, there was an article with an article from the Wrestling Spot, I believe that's what it was called. Let's see. PostWrestling.com, excuse me. That was also highlighted by Wrestling Culture. and they had said that Nick Aldis actually wanted to see about getting Rusev on the roster. Rusev is a guy that I've kind of been championing for a while, maybe more privately than publicly, but he's a guy who I do believe either currently lives or used to live in Southern California. He was trained locally at Knox Pro Wrestling. That is the school that is owned and operated by Rikishi Fatu. And there's a lot of talk that perhaps Rusev could be Nick Aldis' first opponent. Now, this has not been confirmed by anybody from the NWA, anybody from the United Wrestling Network, David Marquez, Nick Aldis, anything. This is just my speculation. And knowing that there is a history there, I mean, Nick Aldis even said, like, in that article back on May 15th, said that he would routinely call David Lagana and say, Dave, we need this guy. He's money, and him in the NWA environment would work. And I'm not saying that Nick Aldis is infallible, but he's been pretty right about some of the talents that they've brought into the NWA. And I know that he has a much louder voice now than he did in the NWA just even 6 months ago. So we'll see what happens when it comes to Primetime Wrestling Live. Again, they have no price point yet. Fight and the United Wrestling Network are still working on negotiating. Plus, it's not just with Fight, but they have to have some sort of price point for the on-demand service that they plan to be on as well. So it has to kind of make sense to be on Fight, the on-demand service. They're trying to maximize as many eyeballs as they can get. Of course, it has to make sense for the partnership with the NWA as well. And I mean, when you speak about the NWA, there's a lot of rumors of what's going on with them, what's going to be happening next. Dave Marquez has said repeatedly that this show is not going to replace NWA Power, and that at some point NWA Power will return. And that's the same sentiment that the owner of the NWA, William Patrick Corgan, has said repeatedly that NWA Power will return when the time is right. So there's a lot of things are going on in the world of professional wrestling. There's a lot of rumors and speculations at AEW tonight. We're going to see some things happen. I'm not really sure what's going to happen next, but I do say stay tuned to see more and more of what's going on. Now here's the part of the show where we go through your comments to see what you think when we do our little hashtag Talk NWA with the hashtag NWA fam. So first and foremost, Willie says hi. How you doing, Willie? Wrestling with MMA says, what up, bros? What up, Wrestling with MMA? Congratulations on the job. Dave Scooby says, greetings all, and you can hear me loud and clear. That's good. You guys can hear me for a change. That is also good. Willie Bowen says, I'm glad that the NWA is part of the United Wrestling Network. That means more wrestlers appearing on Power. Great move by Billy Corgan. One other thing that I wanted to point out, and this is more for the United Wrestling Network than it is for the NWA, but remember that Championship Wrestling from Hollywood tapes at the Ocean View Pavilion on alternating weekends. Championship Wrestling from Arizona tapes from Arizona on alternating weekends, and occasionally they will tape stuff for Arizona in Hollywood and vice versa. If they're doing a weekly pay-per-view for United Wrestling Network Primetime Live, that means having talent who would come to the LA metropolitan area to do the pay-per-views in Long Beach could also take advantage of having TV time in Hollywood and in Arizona. And I mean, if it's the right team, if it's the right wrestlers, if it's the right talent, I mean, they could even maybe appear on New Japan Strong. So it's really it might be advantageous for talent to try to get to these pay-per-views, because they could possibly be featured on 3 to 4 different programs. And I mean, we do know it was said that Billy Corgan said that there would be some content captured at these shows that would be specific for the Patreon consumers for the NWA, the whole Carneyland stuff, that they could still be creating content through this partnership for their Patreon subscribers, and then I believe that stuff eventually will come to their YouTube channel, not specific to NWA Power, but maybe something new, or at the very least just matches, right? And who wouldn't be excited about that? Wrestling with MMA says, Willie Bowen, same here, bro. I feel it opens the door for a territory comeback. Willie Bowen's guesses were Jerry Flynn and Gary Steele about the two that had defended in Texas. No, Jerry Flynn did not, and nor did Gary Steele. Jerry Flynn, I don't believe he ever held the title. Jerry Flynn challenged for the title, and he made it to the finals of the tournament to crown the new World's Champion. That I believe that eventually that title went to Mike Rapata. Wrestling with MMA thinks that Aldis is going to take the L on the 29th, and I mean, look, he hasn't faced real competition in months, and as much as Flip Gordon is a talented performer and a great wrestler, Nick Aldis is I don't think that Flip Gordon is the guy that's going to push Nick Aldis to the next level. I do think Jeff Cobb will, and we have no idea who the mystery opponent will be. And then Wrestling with MMA follows up, he's a part of Strictly Resistance, and he stands by his comment. He's going to lose faster than Mickey did last night. Ouch. Dave Scooby says, ouch. Willie Bowen says, will this be available on YouTube? And I think you are referring to the show that's happening on August 29th. And now that is not connected to the Primetime Wrestling Network, the Primetime Live by the United Wrestling Network. It's not connected to the NWA. This is a separate booking, and no, it will not be on YouTube, at least not initially. From what I gathered, I sent a message to the promotion that's putting the event on, and they said they're efforting to get it on Fight TV, or Fight.net, or what's the website? Yeah, Fight. They're trying to get it on Fight, but I don't know what version of that show they can get on Fight, considering all the contracts that they're dealing with. A lot of these guys who are wrestling in AEW or Impact Wrestling or MLW, I do believe their contracts prohibit them from appearing on pay-per-views from other wrestling companies, but we'll see. Maybe they can work something out. It would be great to see a lot of these matches take place. I mean, like I said, EC3, Jacob Fatu, Brian Cage. I mean, there's a lot of great talent on this card, so it would be cool to see that. And Dave Scooby says of Nick Aldis that he's not his personal favorite, but he is representing the NWA, so of course that's somebody who he's going to cheer for. And then Wrestling with MMA says he's keeping up the kayfabe. Of course, whether you like Nick Aldis or don't like him as a competitor, you cannot deny the fact that he has done a lot for the NWA, and over the course of 3 years, carrying that brand on his back, literally taking that title from territory to territory, from state to state, literally 4 continents in his first year, is pretty damn impressive. And whatever is in store next for Nick Aldis and the NWA, I think beyond a shadow of a doubt, we could all salute what the champion was able to do, whether you like Strictly Business or not, whether you like Nick Aldis or not, you have to respect what he was able to do. And I think in the long term, I think Nick Aldis will be around for a long time. More of your comments. Dave Scooby says, this is great exposure for everyone involved with Primetime Live. And it is. You can't take that anything away from that. This is an opportunity for the National Wrestling Alliance to really kind of get its foot back in the hole. When Power went on hiatus, I do believe that many people thought that it would be back, that it would be gone, not for a long time, but it's been gone for a lot longer than they expected. Let me just take care of this real quick. Sorry, guys. you know, a lot of us expected that NWA Power would be back, and then of course the change in leadership really did impact the ability to tell a story, because there wasn't much of a story to tell. I mean, let's face it, David Lagana spun so many plates for the NWA that they literally had to restructure its leadership and management going forward. I don't know what has come from that. I don't know what leadership is in place now outside of what it was before, with William Patrick Corgan still being the president. I don't know who's running the NWA at this point on a day-to-day operations, if it's Nick Aldis, if it's Marine, if it's Tim Storm, or it's David Marquez. I mean, that information isn't really public knowledge, but we do know that the NWA is moving forward. We do know that the NWA is taking advantage of opportunities that are presenting themselves. That's why we're seeing our World's Heavyweight Champion defending the 10 pounds of gold in 11 days for that Wrestling Expo. That's why we know that our Women's Champion, Thunder Rosa, will be defending her title in her own promotion, Mission Pro Wrestling, on September the 21st. I think that's the correct date. So we do know that the NWA is moving forward. We do know that they are efforting for new things. I mean, you guys have heard some of the speculation. The NWA and what could happen next is certainly, I mean, it's coming to the forefront. And again, we don't know what's going to happen next. So we'll just have to kind of sit back idly by and see what happens next. But I mean, we're only a month away. We're only a month away from this Primetime Live. And like I said earlier, there hasn't been an announced main event yet. There hasn't been a price point announced yet. But ultimately, I think fans of the NWA are going to be happy. I know that Marquez has always been about high-class production and the best talent available. Even with limited resources, they could still put on a very interesting show. And again, that price point I know is going to make the world of difference for a lot of people. If you're paying for a pay-per-view, David Marquez is going to give you the best pay-per-view he can, period. And that's not speaking in hyperbole. I genuinely believe that. If you guys haven't checked it out yet, please visit alliance-wrestling.com. That is your number one source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance. We do cover the United Wrestling Network, the NWA, and the partnered promotions that work with them, like Mission Pro Wrestling, and of course Tried and True Pro Wrestling. If you also haven't had time when this is over, we've been busy over here at the Alliance blog. We posted just 5 days ago a remastered edition interview with Lance Cade, remembering the roughneck, if you will. Lance Cade, the Rough House, Lance Cade was set to be a major player for the National Wrestling Alliance prior to his passing. I wasn't able to say this on the remastered interview, but I spoke to the guy 4 months before he passed away. And obviously, I mean, he succumbed to some of his demons, but a lot of what was happening with Lance Cade, he was relieved to be out of the WWE. He was looking for an opportunity to make an impact, to create a legacy for himself. He wanted to be like Bruiser Brody. He wanted to be like Stan Hansen, and he wanted to be able to compete in All Japan Wrestling at a high level, All Japan Pro Wrestling, but also he wanted to be able to help bring the NWA onto the map. And his goal was to become the next World's Heavyweight Champion. And Ken Taylor was pushing for him hard. And during that time, if you go back in, again, if you could look historically, he had this match that was set up to put him into contention for that NWA Texas Championship. And historically, that NWA Texas Heavyweight Championship was a means to an end to get to that NWA National Championship, to get to the NWA North American Championship. As we were talking earlier about Nick Aldis defending in North Richland Hills, North Richland Hills and NWA Southwest was predicated on champions like Kevin Northcutt, like Hot Stuff Hernandez, who were former national champions, former North American champions. And I do believe that if given the opportunity, Lance Cade was going to take advantage of the opportunities that that Ken Taylor was putting in front of him. And I do believe that, without a shadow of doubt, Lance Cade was going to be your NWA North American champion, and he was going to take that road to the World's Heavyweight Championship. He had made overtures to the Sheik. Do you guys remember that guy? He made overtures to the Sheik, who at that point was a Triple Crown champion, holding not only the NWA Florida Championship, the NWA Midwest Championship, and of course the NWA North American title. Lance Cade was scheduled to wrestle against Apollo up in NWA On Fire. NWA On Fire was the promotion on the Northeast that was actually a spin-off, an offshoot of NWA Hollywood, and they had Apollo, who, again, if you guys remember from Impact Wrestling and Puerto Rico, was always a guy who never reached his full potential. He was the NWA North American champion, and he and Lance Cade were supposed to face each other. Some commitments in Japan prevented Lance Cade from making that matchup, but of course, if you know the history, the Sheik ended up taking advantage of the opportunity to wrestle Apollo, and ended up winning that title. So, I mean, there's a lot going on. Dave Scooby corrects me. It's actually Mission Pro is September the 18th, not the 21st. So it'll be interesting to see what happens next. It'll be interesting to see what's going to take place. And of course, I've got people on Facebook who are messaging me. If you guys are on social media, and hopefully you are, I think most of you guys are on Twitter. If you're on Instagram or if you're on Facebook, check out NWA Gold. They're currently running a best title of the NWA. Tim from NWA Gold actually contacted me about adding my favorite championship title to the mix, and there's basically every day he's posting a new which title is better. Today's title is the NWA Women's Champion, the Burke, against the NWA Arkansas Heavyweight Championship, and that's a no-brainer if you ask me. But I do recommend that you guys take advantage of that, get on top of that. Kind of went through this a little bit quicker than I thought we would today. Michael Manning says he just arrived and he hasn't heard anything yet. Michael, what are you talking about, brother? What do you want to hear? And I think we should all just be happy with the fact that our NWA Worlds Heavyweight Champion, Nick Aldis, has a title defense scheduled. That our Women's Champion, Thunder Rosa, has a defense scheduled. January 24th was the last time that any NWA title was defended. I mean, unless you count Zicky Dice's TV title defense in early March out in Northern California. The NWA just hasn't had a single event, so to see our titles being defended again, it's something promising. Now, a lot of people who are new to the NWA, who just discovered the NWA after Power, you're probably like, well, hey, this is kind of a bummer because we haven't seen our champions defend the title in some time. There's been years where the NWA has kind of been dormant in some capacities. The tag title's not really being defended, the junior heavyweight title not really being defended. So it's all just kind of it's all been kind of up in the air. But I mean, the good news is with these titles being defended, I've always said this about the NWA, that the NWA doesn't die as long as that 10 pounds of gold is still moving around. A lot of people thought that the NWA was done when Shane Douglas tossed the title. Hell, they thought the NWA was done when Ric Flair appeared on WWF programming holding the old big gold belt. But the fact of the matter, the NWA finds a way. It's like Jurassic Park. It will always find a way. And whether it be its partnership with Impact Wrestling, its partnership with the WWE in the late 90s, or promoters like David Marquez, or now, of course, Billy Corgan, the NWA continues to thrive. And even in this downtime, we're still seeing the NWA that title being defended. I know it was a break, but it's also a global pandemic, so we have to kind of cut her some slack. But I think that's going to wrap it up for today, guys. I think we kind of exhausted what was happening in North Richland Hills. Again, the NWA Southwest, the history of that area will be reignited again on August 29th when the World's Heavyweight Champion Nick Aldis defends that 10 pounds of gold against Jeff Cobb and a mystery opponent. We'll talk next week a little bit more about Jeff Cobb, and we'll go into detail about who he is and what's the possibility of the other guy coming out. Whoever wins the Battle Royal on the night before, who will get to face Nick Aldis. Plus, next week we'll take a look at some of the talent that I believe will be a part of the Primetime Live event. Of course, I'm just basing this off of my own forecasting, but we don't. We'll know for sure more as the card gets closer together. Of course, if you guys would do me a solid, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment below. Tell me who your favorite NWA Southwest champion was, if you have one. And then also, we're on all social medias at the Alliance Blog. If you want to give us a follow, like, or friend, or however you do it. We're on TikTok, Tumblr, Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, YouTube. If you're not on Twitch, you should get on it, because we do a lot of in middle of the night stuff on Twitch that may or may not end up on this page here. Lastly, my friends over at the NWA this is the NWA podcast, will be on later tonight to speak with y'all about what's going on in the world of professional wrestling and the National Wrestling Alliance. Again, if you haven't checked out the interviews with Lance Cade and Thunder Rosa, I highly recommend it. The last thing I want to talk about is the NWA Worlds Junior Heavyweight Championship, the belt that has remained quiet and dormant since Billy Corgan took over the NWA in 2017. Kevin Douglas, DKM, and myself have been working on a look back at the World Junior Heavyweight Championship. We will also be airing some of our old interviews with the likes of Craig Classic, Kevin Douglas. Of course, the camera died on me. Uh-oh. Where'd it go? Oh, lovely. Well, apparently you can't hear me. Or maybe you can. I don't know. Well, that's a bummer. Sorry, guys. There you go. But anyways, yes, like I said, we have the look back at the junior heavyweight special, and again, we will be conducting some interviews from the past and maybe some more from the future. We'll let you know soon. But until that time, guys, I'm gonna let you go because the podcast is ending now. And again, we'll see you guys. We'll see you on Friday on Instagram, where me and Will Martin will do our hot tag. But until then, see you at the matches.